By 1940, British reconnaissance crews faced German guns they could not even scratch, forced to watch and run as their own vehicles' boys' rifles bounced harmlessly off enemy armor. Commanders struggled to find men willing to scout when observation meant certain death. But while every rule said you could not have speed, armor, and firepower in one vehicle, a radical British design shattered the impossible trinity. How did the strangest British armored car turn the hunted into the hunter? And why was every rule about to change? British reconnaissance crews in 1940 climbed into vehicles armed with little more than hope. Their main weapon, the boys' anti-tank rifle, fired a .55 caliber round that barely dented German armored cars. Some patrols carried 15mm BSA machine guns, but these too proved useless against the enemy's steel. German scouts, equipped with 20mm autocannons, swept the battlefield with firepower that could tear through British armor from hundreds of meters away. Every mission meant rolling out knowing the odds. Patrols watched through periscopes as German vehicles maneuvered freely, safe behind armor the British could not pierce. Orders were clear: observe, report, avoid direct contact. But the enemy rarely played by those rules. When German cars spotted British scouts, the exchange was one-sided and deadly. Crews learned to expect the sudden impact of cannon shells, the rattle of machine gun fire, and the knowledge that their own weapons would not answer back. The cost was measured in more than lost vehicles. Losses mounted, not just in machines, but in men who vanished on patrols that never returned. Morale collapsed as word spread through the regiments. Volunteers grew scarce. Commanders struggled to fill crews, forced to send men on missions that offered little more than a chance to die unseen, outgunned, and outmaneuvered. Intelligence reports grew thin. Units hesitated to probe enemy lines, knowing that discovery meant destruction. The information that did filter back was often outdated, incomplete, or gathered at terrible cost. In the field, the sense of futility weighed heavy. Crews watched German vehicles roam the open ground, confident in their superiority, knowing the British could do nothing to stop them. Reconnaissance became a grim lottery, each patrol a test of luck rather than skill. The tools at hand were simply not enough. British doctrine demanded observation, but the reality on the ground was a running battle for survival, with the best outcome often being a hasty retreat and a silent radio. The gap between what was needed and what was possible had become a chasm. To gather intelligence, to survive, to fight back, none of it could be done with the weapons and armor then available. Something had to change, or reconnaissance would remain a mission for men with nothing left to lose. In 1939, British engineers faced a challenge that seemed to defy logic. The Army demanded a reconnaissance vehicle fast enough to scout, light enough to cross rough ground, and powerful enough to destroy enemy armor. The answer came not from conventional thinking, but from a willingness to rewrite the rules of military vehicle design. The solution began with the decision to mount the Ordnance quick-firing 2-pounder, a 40mm tank gun, on a wheeled chassis. This was the same weapon used on Crusader and Valentine tanks, now placed in a fully enclosed turret atop a vehicle that weighed just over 7,500 kilograms. No other nation's reconnaissance car carried such firepower. While rivals settled for machine guns or light cannons, this new British design could destroy German armored cars and threaten early panzers at typical combat ranges. Powering this machine was a 95 horsepower Daimler engine, but it was the transmission that truly set the vehicle apart. The Wilson pre-selector gearbox, paired with a fluid flywheel, allowed the driver to select any of 5 forward or 5 reverse gears in advance, then engage them instantly with a single pedal. This meant the armored car could accelerate to 50 miles per hour on roads, then reverse away at the same speed without ever turning around. In battle, the gun could stay locked on target while the vehicle retreated, a maneuver no tracked tank or rival armored car could match. The fluid flywheel kept the engine running even during abrupt shifts, preventing stalls and ensuring that the crew could escape danger as quickly as they had engaged it. Mobility was just as revolutionary. Independent coil spring suspension on all 4 wheels delivered a ride that absorbed the shocks of rough ground and allowed the vehicle to climb slopes as steep as 50%, angles that left heavier tracked vehicles stranded. With a 200-mile operational range, the car could cross deserts, forests, and mountains without refueling. The design combined tank-level firepower, the speed of a sports car, and the agility of a scout. What had once been dismissed as an impossible combination now rolled off the drawing boards, ready to change the way reconnaissance was fought. This was more than an improvement. It was a complete break from the old rules, turning the impossible trinity of speed, mobility, and firepower into a single, unified machine. The stage was set for production to begin, even as the world around it plunged deeper into war. Production of the Daimler Armoured Car began in April 1941, just as German bombers targeted British industry. The Luftwaffe's raids forced a rapid dispersal of manufacturing across central England. Armored car assembly shifted to Wolverhampton. Gearboxes were produced in a converted hosiery factory, and turrets took shape in a building once used for making underwear. Despite the chaos, the workforce adapted with determination. Parts moved by lorry under blackout. Workers learned new skills overnight, and production lines kept running even when air raid sirens sounded. The result was a steady output that defied expectation. By war's end, 2,694 Daimler armored cars had rolled out to the front. The impact of this industrial resilience became clear in the North African desert. Early in 1942, the 11th Hussars received their first Daimlers. Crews who had once braced for retreat now found themselves equipped to hunt instead of hide. With the 2-pounder gun, British patrols could destroy German armored cars at any range they were likely to encounter. The shift was immediate. Reconnaissance missions turned aggressive, and the Hussars began to push deeper into enemy territory. Reports from the desert told of patrols that no longer waited for trouble to find them. They went looking for it. The combination of mass production under fire and a fighting vehicle that delivered on its promises changed the way reconnaissance was fought, transforming both the factory floor and the battlefield. On June 6, 1944, the Inns of Court Regiment landed their Daimler armored cars on Juno Beach and drove straight into the chaos of Normandy. Mines littered the exits, German 88mm guns targeted every approach, and the Daimlers pressed forward. Their 2-pounder guns knocked out enemy vehicles at ranges where German scouts could barely scratch their armor. In the hedgerows and villages beyond the beach, these cars led the way, clearing routes and breaking ambushes, their crews earning a reputation for daring that outpaced even the tanks they scouted for. 3 months later, British reconnaissance regiments raced toward Brussels. On September 3, 1944, Daimler armored cars were among the first Allied vehicles to reach the Belgian capital, rolling through jubilant crowds and shattered roadblocks. The sight of these cars in the city's heart became a symbol of liberation and Allied momentum. Their presence was not just ceremonial. On the roads to Brussels, Daimlers had outgunned German SD-KFZ T-22s and survived encounters that would have destroyed lesser vehicles. Rival designs never matched this record. The German SD-KFZ T-22, with its 20mm autocannon and open-top turret, was vulnerable to both Daimler's main gun and close-range attacks. The American M8 Greyhound, with its 37mm cannon, suffered from thin floor armor that left crews dangerously exposed to mines. Even the German Puma, praised for its power, saw only 101 units built, outnumbered by Daimlers at a ratio of 26-1. The British Army kept Daimlers in service until January 1960, long after the war, and after its intended replacement, the Coventry Armoured Car, had been cancelled as inferior. India's cavalry drove them through the Himalayan passes in 1962. Malaysia relied on them through the Malayan Emergency, and Sri Lanka kept some running into the 1990s. Of nearly 3,000 produced, only 41 survive, a testament to how hard they were driven and how long they remained relevant. The Daimler Armoured Car was more than a battlefield answer. It was a legacy of engineering that proved its worth across continents and decades. Today, military innovation still pivots on the willingness to rewrite doctrine and defy limits, just as the Daimler did. When threat and opportunity collide, true breakthroughs reward the bold. The lesson? Survival favors those who refuse to accept the impossible. What possibilities are we overlooking now?